Welcome back to Greenwich Entrepreneurs. I'm Greg Skidmore, President of Bellray Asset Management, and I'm here with Pedro, who has a question, I think, right?
I do. So we were talking about getting the audit and payback time, 8 to 15 years. Let's talk about that a little more. And then also, once you pay back, isn't there you're giving back? I'm not sure if I'm using the correct terminology.
Right.
But you're giving back to the grid because you're producing.
Right.
So talk about that for a little bit.
I would love to, and I think the important thing is, and I'm prone to do what everybody else, what I criticize others for, which is to talk about this payback period without mentioning the longevity of the equipment, because this is the really critical point. Your current way of consuming energy, at no point do you stop paying, right? Mm-hmm. Unless you want to sit in the dark.
Right.
But with solar, when you've reached that payback period, and mind you, this is a period that you would have paid that anyway. This is not an optional payment. This is something that you would have had to pay anyhow. So you would have paid that over the last 12 years. You would have paid it anyway. But you've had clean energy that entire time. And at the end of that period, your energy that system produces is free until the equipment stops working. Right? And that could be 40 to 50 years. That's the design life. People use 25 all the time because that's the warranty. But it's warranted to produce 80% of what it produced the day you plugged it in 25 years later. So the thing to remember about a photovoltaic, now we're only talking about electricity producing solar here. These panels are solid state technology. There's no moving parts. So there's nothing to maintain on a panel. That will die a very, very slow death over an extremely long period of time. You have an inverter replacement somewhere between year 10 and 20, most likely 15 to 20, one little inverter. And that's it. You know your costs for the next 40 to 50 years of your life. I mean, like, I've paid now for my energy probably for the rest of my life, which is sort of amazing to me. And so if somebody says this doesn't make financial sense to me, when they can explain how 30 years of free clean electricity doesn't make financial sense, I'll stop doing what I do. But, in the meantime, I cannot see how this doesn't make financial sense.
Do you have to worry about hail? What about physical damage?
No, I'm so glad you should say that. We had a terrible hailstorm. Yeah, no, I ran out, looked at my panel. No, they have extremely heavy, thick glass, and they're extremely durable. You're gonna insure them under your homeowner's policy. They become a part of your home, and it doesn't raise your insurance. It doesn't increase your property tax, which is another interesting thing. There's no other investment you can make into increasing the value of your home that doesn't increase your property tax, other than a renewable energy system. So not just solar electricity, solar hot water, geothermal. All of these systems are exempt from property tax increases residentially.
What has been the growth rate of energy costs in Connecticut? I'm sort of curious because that also factors into how valuable this is in the future.
Absolutely. If you average it out over the last 10 years, 86% increases would be about 7.5% a year is how much it's gone up. I would suspect, and a lot of people suspect, that number is actually going to go up, not down. Mm-hmm. Mostly because we have an aging grid, right?
Unless you get everybody to convert.
Well, even then, there will still be associated costs with converting to renewables, and we're experiencing that as well. Like it or not, those changes will need to be made. The aging infrastructure will need to be dealt with, and the fact that we continue to consume more energy all the time, not less, more, and that's what's fascinating.
Now, I have a question for you, because a lot of the property owners that I know, they lease to businesses the space, and they have the tenants pay the electric bill.
Right.
So they don't really have an incentive under that system.
You're absolutely correct. Everybody is not incentivized at the same rate to do this. This is really meant for people who own the property. Now, those people could do something along the lines of a PPA called a power purchase agreement. So if they bought a system, they could then sell you, the tenant, energy at a reduced rate. Everybody makes money, right? They make money, you save money, everyone's happy. You're going to see a lot of those power purchase agreements. You can look to California to see where we're headed, and they have a lot of...
Is that what they've done?
Absolutely. There's leasing, there's power purchase agreements, and then there's purchase of these systems. So there's a lot of different ways that people are taking advantage of renewable energy. But I think you had a second part of your question that I did not answer. And now I'm trying to remember what it was, Pedro.
I'm going
I know,
through
it's
this and
hard.
saying,
There's so much to cover.
Why wouldn't you at least have someone come in and look?
Right. That we wanted the same thing, and I think that's the point, is that businesses, we're looking at new incentives, by the way, for businesses with photovoltaics. So for some period, we haven't had an incentive for businesses to do solar electricity. And unfortunately, a lot of people ran around saying we have no incentives. They meant for business, when in fact we've had incentives for residential. Mm-hmm. There has been a little coming and going, but, really right now we have these very high incentives for solar hot water and for solar electricity. I do want to mention that solar hot water is a very separate technology than solar electricity. It requires much less roof space, much smaller upfront investment, and that one really is a no-brainer.
But you can do it's still
and you can do
connected connected to the panel.
Yeah. Well, solar hot water is listed like, thank you. You came to it. Is that how, because a lot of people wondered, can they make money doing this? The thing about solar electricity is it's annual net metering and grid tying that made this possible. Like the whole industry, everybody says, well, solar technology is not new. No, it's not. We've been putting it up in outer space for a long time. The military's been using it. The oil companies, here's the irony, right, for a lot of the environmentalists. So much of what kept our business, our industry alive is the military, right, and oil companies out on oil rigs,
Yeah.
And so,
I didn't know that.
so we've had,
That's
we've had solar energy for eons. But what we weren't doing is we weren't allowing you or a business to tie into the grid, right? So that's what's made this make sense. Is that now you don't have batteries, which are expensive, and you have to maintain, and it's a whole lot of effort involved. This is now effortless. I tie you into the grid. It's called annual.
So there's a solar grid, essentially?
Well, no, it's the electrical grid that currently exists.
Okay.
What's so beautiful about what we do is we don't replace anything. We simply integrate into existing systems.
Okay.
Those systems still work perfectly as they did before, so you never have to worry about not having energy from the grid should there not be sun, right?
Okay.
You're tied in. What happens is our solar panels first supply your house, so your constant loads, like your refrigerator, your freezer, anything plugged in. And then what they do when you're not home is it shoots into the grid, right, spinning your meter backwards. This is called annual net metering. So it doesn't
spins the meter
it
backwards.
does, and people love that, and you can watch
That is
videos.
kinda cool.
Yeah, you can watch videos on the internet watching people meter spin backwards. So, and this is what happens at my house. I get credits now. Every time I send energy in, I get a credit. And so all summer and spring and fall, I'm building credits. And then all winter, right, when the days are shorter and the sun is lower in the
It's
sky.
like rollover minutes in a cell phone plan.
It is. It is. That's exactly what it is. And if you didn't have that, then you would worry about these dreary days, right? But since you have annual net metering, we don't care what you make in a day or a week or even a month. It's what do you make in a year. And so when you worry about how am I going to know how to size your system, I look at how much electricity did you use last year. And that's why we have that conversation about, do you have kids moving off to college? Do you have a parent that you think is going to be moving in to be cared for? I mean, all these are issues because we want to know which direction is this flat? Have you been very consistent in your electrical use, or is it up and down a lot? Were you gone 3 months last year? We need to know that. So we're going to size the system according to last year's use. And you never want to size over 100% of what you think you're going to do. And we talked about this. A lot of people say, I'm going to make money. No, solar's about saving a lot of money. And it's about saving a lot of money over time, which is sort of foreign to the American mindset, right? And I think that's why we haven't adopted it at the rates that you see foreign countries adopting it, because they're better long-term thinkers than we are, for the most part.
It's kind of like paying off your mortgage, it sounds like. I mean, eventually if you just pay into if you do it.
Well, if you wrap this into your mortgage, you're cash positive from day one.
Oh, you can do that.
Yes, you can. And so new home purchasing would be a great opportunity, great time. First of all, you're going to buy a house, right, that has a solar.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you're trying to decide between house A and house B today, and one has a south-facing roof, buy the one with the south-facing roof because even without solar, it would be more valuable.
All right. Well, we have to wrap up.
No problem.
Because
We
Got a
didn't even
minute
talk
left.
about her as an entrepreneur. Did you realize that? We've just been all industry today, it's a great industry. This is fascinating.
It is. It's awesome. So anyway, Carolyn, thank you. It was fun.
You're welcome. Thank
So
you.
website one more time?
It's sunlightsolar.com.
And so anyway, we've been talking to Carolyn, and we'll have to have you back so we can learn more about you.
Well, that's why I brought those donuts.
And this has been Greenwich Entrepreneurs, and we will see you again next week, 1490 WGCH.